One of the main things I see that, at least for me, and even research, a lot of research proved is that what literally increase our stress. One of the main things that increase our stress is criticism, especially self-criticism. We have this mistaken belief that self-criticism leads to accountability, discipline. We become better at what we do. But what I found in research and what I found in basically scientific research is the complete opposite of that. What I found in there was that criticism actually is a major cause for stress. It's a major cause for anxiety. When I was, growing in my career, I feel like it initially addressing my, where I need to correct, criticizing my self-help. But over time, what I realized is that it is causing me more stress and anxiety than necessary. And it made me, unfortunately, a perfectionist. So until things are perfect, I was afraid to do it. So you will see even these sessions, I make a lot of mistakes, or maybe, I really don't care anymore because I'm not as critical of myself, and whatever come to be. So I'm just focused on really doing my best. And what I found is that criticism, especially self-criticism, can damage your self-esteem. And your self-esteem is one of the most important things for you to become successful in life or succeed in life. So if you're continually criticizing yourself, either because of, parents did it, or maybe you learn it from in your culture, it is actually not helping. Again, this is not something I knew for a very long time. It's only I came across this research, about last 2 to 3 years. But it has had a huge impact when I discovered that criticism, in fact, is not helping me. It is making me more fearful of things. I realized that I got to stop it, right? And I'll talk about what to do instead more. But this is understanding that creating or doing or criticizing yourself excessively, it actually does more damage than you think. So if you want to learn a little bit more about it, just Google effects of self-criticism, right? Check it out. And also go to ChatGPT if you're comfortable with that, and just simply type, what are the effects of criticism? Or if you want to really understand it, just type dangers of self-criticism. So that's one of the major things that I found I didn't know for, like I said, for a long time. Everybody else does it, and I also see things I need to work on. But I realized it wasn't really helping me. It was actually making my life difficult. And I became less motivated, more sadder, and avoided connection with others more and more when I started to do and more of that. Another major way that we see that criticism, we criticize each other, is actually through comparing ourselves to other people. And we don't think that is necessarily causing criticism, but the effects of it is the same to the subconscious mind. So this is something that, again, I didn't discover or learn. We have, especially when we're in social media, especially when we look at people around us, if they are doing well, we tend to compare ourselves to them. And when we do that, what happens is that it literally creates criticism within our mind. And this is something that slows down a lot of progress in people's lives. So that's something for you to remember and look into a little bit more, not just because I'm telling you, right? Look into on your own time, what are the effects criticism can have on your life. Okay. So I see Peter has a great question. So let me see. If it is something that was solved by family, how important is to have the conversations with them, asking them to understand how it is counterproductive? Is it possible to reduce it while living in an environment still encourage? Absolutely. So I'm going to be giving a person. So I came from a Sri Lankan family, right? So everybody in Sri Lanka help their kids. The best way is to criticize them and compare their kids to other people. So I had a very tough conversations with my parents at initial stages, right? I think my sister who's here also can vouch for that, Dilini. These are one of the main things that I actually was challenging me, because when I was saying, don't do that, that's not good for you. It's not, that's what they grew up in, right? So is it possible to help them help? Is it useful to talk to them about it? Absolutely. It can change, but sometimes they might be right away receptive to it. But what I found is that it can, over time, when you do it gradually without criticizing them back, because something that I made the mistake, because they are criticizing me, but I'm criticizing them about not criticizing, right? So I was just criticizing them back. So it was a very delicate game I was playing at that time, because every time they would criticize me, I feel like then, I have this need, like, why are you criticizing me? Why are you always like this? Like, I would say things like that. I was like, wait, I'm criticizing them back. This is not really helping. The way I started to go into this delicate game was like, what? I know you're telling this for my benefit. I completely understand that, I'm your son. I get it. You want nothing but best for me. But the issue is, the criticism is not actually helpful. What is actually helpful is encouragement and praise. So, you might have to do this repeatedly, Peter. It's again something I have to do in my personal life for myself, is that I have to repeatedly have these conversations within the family as well. And then I tell, like, look, do you know what the research say? Do you know what the scientists say? It is actually not the most valuable thing to be disciplined, to be accountable. So I would kind of, instead of getting angry with them, instead of making it a problem, I would acknowledge, like, I know you love me. I know you have taken care of me for this long, but criticism is no longer useful or helping me become the person I want to become. And I want to, be the best of myself, be the best version of myself. And I'm doing my best. But criticism, even like the research say, it doesn't really help in this situation. And I hope you can understand that, right? So even maybe changing the way you speak to them and acknowledging and validating their love for you, right, might be the good place to start. And then explaining to them, this is actually what is not helping, and this is instead what is helping. Encourage me. That's one of the most valuable thing you can do, right? So that's essentially, I personally, I went through this issue. So I didn't really have the best conversation. I was just end up criticizing them for criticizing me. But I realized that doesn't work. It hurts other people. It hurts my family members. So I decided, okay, what is the best way to do it? I decided to do it. Okay, you know what? Acknowledge, validate their love for you, and then talk about the disadvantage of criticism, and then next thing, talk about the advantages of self-compassion or compassion, or even encouragement. Okay, so again, we will talk about a little bit more about that. So one of the main things that happen, in this model is that even when we don't know, we talk about this model of having a subconscious and conscious, right? So when you criticize ourselves, what happens is that this information about criticism gets stored, especially if you've been criticized when you were younger, in your childhood, in your school years, by your teachers or whatever may be. You might be not consciously aware that you were criticized, right? But when the criticism does have an effect in your mind, it does have an effect on you, how you do things. So understanding that it does need work. You need to understand, if you've been criticized for a long time, this can affect how you look at yourself right now, right? So you need to understand that it can affect your conscious mind over time, right? So that's important to remember. So understand that, these things, that when we become critical, or when we're exposed to criticism, it can get stored in our subconscious mind. And then when we become adults, guess what we're going to do? Criticize ourselves. Our parents not going to do it sometimes. We will do it for them, right? So our mind is programmed into doing that. So that's one of the main things that I want to make sure is that, if you're being criticized, or even still, like, make sure that at least tell yourself criticism is no longer the way to get better, to improve performance, to get things done.